Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Leaf Photographies. This is your, hopefully Sunday, maybe Monday release. We are talking about ISO. Now, ISO has a name. Really, once you get into it, it's just a technical name. It doesn't really help you out with what you're actually doing. It just doesn't really do it. So with that being said, let's talk about it. Alright guys, so we are talking about ISO. Now what is ISO? That is basically, back in the day, we used film. Some people still use film. I still use film. So the question is, what is film types? This measurement is a film type. It is the lower number, the darker your stuff gets, and the higher it pulls out more light. So it's more sensitive. So that has to do a lot with the film type. Lower means that you have a whole lot of sun that you're going to be exposing onto this film, and higher means that you have less. So if you're shooting at night, you want a higher ISO. The problem with higher ISOs and ISO in general, even on cameras, is the higher you go, the more film grain you get. So and also more blur, but you also get distortion if not properly used. So if you are taking a night photo, for say, you would have to have a higher ISO typically to get the shot to look right, or it might be blown out if you're too high, or it might just be too dark if you're too low. That's the issue. Plus, if you're too high, you're going to get pixelation, or basically like burn marks. It's going to be overexposed. So with a lower ISO, your picture will be clearer, but it will also be darker. So you'll need a lot more light to deal with a lower ISO. Your f-stop is your lens. Your lens, we talked about this in one of the last videos about lenses, is it has the pupil, the eye hole, and it either gets darker when it's closed or more light when it's bright, when it's open. This also has a lot to do with your ISO. So you need to know the difference between your ISO settings and your f-stop settings to kind of balance out what you're doing. So if you're going to do a dark picture, like a nighttime picture, you want your ISO to be cranked up pretty high, but you also have to balance that out with your shutter speed and your f-stop, because you don't want to blow out your image and you don't want to get a bunch of distortion with a high ISO. The same thing in highlight situations. You don't want to have a super dark image on top of a faster flash, because that absorbs far less light than you need to properly expose your film, or in this case maybe your digital camera. They both kind of work the same, but instead of having film on a digital camera, you have your sensor, which is your film. So that is the difference between the ISOs. You have to find your balance, especially if you're doing film And that's the great thing about having a digital camera like this. You can play around with it and make things darker or make things lighter, and hopefully find the balance. And if you do a good job of finding a decent middle ground, you can always fix things better in post. With film, not so much. You get what you get, and that's it. So with that being said, guys, thank you for showing up. Thank you for all of my subscribers. Thank you for liking this video if you like it, and we will see you guys next time. Peace.